for the season. I turn you over now to Russ with your morning news.
So here is a trivia question, and you both can take part in this. What is the tallest mountain on Earth?
Mount Everest.
Nope. Not from the ground up.
Nope, it is not.
From the ground up, it would be Mount McKinley.
Nope, it is not.
It's not K2, is it?
It's Mauna Kea. So,
okay,
and it's because of the way they measure it, the distance. It's 10,000 meters tall compared to 8,850 for Mount Everest. So that's why it's the tallest.
Where is it?
In the
Mount Everest starts at higher elevation, obviously.
Right, Pacific Ocean floor to the peak of an island. It's just an island in the Pacific. But I just feel like I've been lied to. Like again, it's like.
No, you're really entering my wheelhouse here, Russ. Okay, because this is the kind of stuff that I know inside out. Okay, so
right, but it's like burn the history books because I'm telling you, and they taught us everything wrong. There's so many things that are wrong, and this is just another one.
Well, it depends what you consider wrong, right? Like, come on now. I mean, honestly,
Everest
the highest point on Earth is Mount Everest. That is the bottom line. So if you want to call it the highest mountain, it is the highest mountain. It depends on how you play it, though, as far as like if you're going to play it from the base of the mountain to the top. McKinley is actually bigger. I know McKinley, and I think then you're talking about an island there that starts under the sea. You know, I mean, I'm not sure. That's obviously taller still, right?
Bob. I mean, it's a mountain, and that's how they measure it.
I mean, like Hawaii is technically a big mountain too. So I'm not sure. That's an interesting one. I'm not sure quite how to go with that one. Well, but I can tell you
right.
What? No, if you were just to go flat out from the tallest mountain that is not underwater,
that's where
at all. You know, but actually just a mountain that's on the land. I think it's McKinley is actually the tallest that runs, which is actually what is or Donata, right? They're the same name. The Donata, Mount Donata in Alaska, and Mount McKinley are the same thing. Like they're the same thing. Like one's the Indian name, one's the Nata.
Yeah.
So
God forbid they wanted to name a mountain after a Republican president.
Right. I agree. Don't worry, we'll have a Mount Trump eventually. But
another Staten Island, it'll be another garbage dump.
yeah, it'll be a mountain of crap, is what it'll be.
You guys are familiar with the petition to change the street name where Trump's Towers is?
Yeah. I'm not getting into that.
I'm not getting into it either, but that is pretty hilarious. You can check it out online if you guys want to check out something funny. I mean, it is. You got to give people credit when they do. Even, no matter what side, you got to give people credit.
Just go to the Democrats' website and you'll see.
Exactly. Don't listen to Mike anyway. No way. Like I said, Mike is one of those. Mike is one of those rare Sarah McLachlan Republicans that just is that's a real small group that Mike runs the Sarah McLachlan Republican Club.
One of those rare Sarah McLachlan Republicans who doesn't like Trump. There you go.
How many people are in the Sarah McLachlan Republican Club, Mike?
I don't know, but it's exclusive, but it's very smart.
It's very smart.
We don't even have enough to have a quorum. I know that.
That's a pretty funny thing. Oh man.
We all get together
for a second. Can I get a little real for a second about this whole thing? This is not political. Okay. This is not at all. This is honestly just okay. So my mother-in-law's 80th birthday was this past weekend, and as a surprise for her, my father-in-law, who was 81, and they're both these guys who look like they're in their 60s, they're ridiculous. But they decided to take the whole family to see Hamilton in Philadelphia. Okay. Hamilton, and because my mother-in-law loves it, and my son loves it. My son, who's been really sick, we managed to get him like enough to get through this thing. It was really great.
Cool.
So as I'm seeing Hamilton, it's an amazing play. It's by far like it is of all the things, like it is the Beatles of plays. Okay, this Hamilton, and it is just beyond. It's a rock opera like no other. It's brilliant. It's brilliant beyond brilliance. I mean, the way the lyrics are, the way the music is, it's just. Even if you don't like it, but one of the cool things about it is it really gives you like that patriotic feeling, which I haven't had for a long time. Like, you know, like a real like feeling of like, you know what, this is like, you know, and I came to myself, maybe we just need a common enemy. Like we're fighting the British, you know, like, if we have a common enemy, we'll all get along, right? That's what you come to think of. Like there's all the stupid things that are discussed between both sides, and I'm talking about both sides here are just ridiculous in America. But when I watch Hamilton, I'm like, man, you know, that's what's good about this country. That's really like wonderful about this country. And I was really just taken back by it. You're kind of very emotional about it. It's really weird. I'm way more emotional than I thought I would be. But
I mean, I'll still miss it, but okay.
Yeah, you're missing out. I'm telling you. You guys are. And I know this is not in your wheelhouse because it's like hip hop.
It could be in Mike's wheelhouse.
Well, no, historically it's in Mike's wheelhouse for sure. But hip hop wise, it's but it's not. It's
Mike will feel like he knows everything and doesn't need to go.
I do.
I don't know if anyone out there has seen it, but if you guys have seen it, it's just
I'm an all-knowing, all-seeing seer.
It is by far probably the most significant piece of musical art in the last 50 years. I don't think there's any question about it.
Since the Spice Girls.
No,
everybody said that about Hair, and I didn't like Hair, so whatever.
No, really significant.
Christ Superstar.
Yeah.
No, this is up there with that. Okay, and I mean, I was
You're not telling me.
Big Jesus Christ Superstar fan as a kid. I don't know if you guys.
Billy Joe.
Yeah.
Did you guys get into Jesus Christ Superstar at all as a kid?
I think I did, some way, somehow.
Pretty good music.
Like I said, I saw Hair, and I thought that was just beyond awful.
Joseph.
Yeah, no, that is beyond. That hair is very specific to a certain period of time. Like
Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
I didn't see that. That was like Donny Osmond, I think, played that part.
Yes, for about a decade.
I did all these plays. I was a theater guy, so I was like.
I was in what was I in? Oliver. That was the only play I was in. I was a pickpocket.
Food, Glorious Food. I was in Oliver. I did Oliver. I did Jesus Christ Superstar. I did Rocky Horror Show, which is another good one.
I saw Rocky Horror Show.
I did Pippin, I did Barnum. I did Late Night. I've done a ton of them. I've done a ton of them. So yeah.
And when I was in second grade, I portrayed Winnie the Pooh.
That's the perfect portrayal.
You need a picture for that. To prove that, I need a photo to prove that. Get to your mom. Get her a photo. There's got to be a photo somewhere about that.
She didn't take photos of me. I refused.
Winnie the Pooh with a gray shirt. That's fantastic.
Yeah, no, there's no
green, by the way. Green.
You are actually. You know what? Have you ever read there's a book out there? We're getting into the show, but there's a book out there called the Tao of Pooh. Have you ever heard about this or read it?
No.
The Tao of Pooh is amazing because it takes all the characters in Winnie the Pooh and like sets them up into these different character traits of people that like basically there is who's a rabbit, who's an Eeyore, who's Winnie the Pooh, and it's really well done. Who's a piglet, like stuff like that.
You have a lot of Winnie the Pooh.
I would say you are a Winnie the Pooh. Actually, I think that's pretty much what you are because you are like the kind of guy who thinks the world is ending, but is happy usually most of the time, but still can find negativity in anything, but still happy. You're definitely Winnie the Pooh. There's no question.
It's honey with tang, and you're probably right.
I prefer that than being called George Costanza. So
yeah, no, you're the George Costanza of the HockeyBuzzcast, but no, you're not. Anyway, no, but I think anyway, we've given a little too much culture here in books and plays, but let's move on.
Yeah, we're not used to culture.
Sorry, we're not talking about football anymore. Anyway, apologize. All right, it's October, kids. Thank God. Mm-hmm. Hello, Hockey World. It is Tuesday, October 1st, 2019.
I'm Michael Agella.
I'm Russ Cohen, and I'm schwitzing because it's so hot here in Philly. Cohen from Switzerland.
And yesterday to our Jewish friends out there. I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in the comings and goings in the hockey world. And
Russ's new website, Fitchology.
Yes. So Evander Kane has been suspended for 3 games. Let's just start there for a second. Because we have to talk about suspensions because it's the law. Is this too little? Too much?
Too little. I mean, Paul Stewart came out and said the rule says 10 games. I'm in agreement. I wanted 10 games.
Yep.
I don't think there's any excuse for this, but what I just said on the radio, because Kane had that other side of the story, and even though we don't believe him, I wonder if like they're looking at the referee as not stopping this from happening, and maybe that's why they lessened it. And I kind of want to keep an eye on now to see if they reprimand the referee at all, just to be fair to both sides.
Well, in the brilliance of NHL scheduling, and this I think was a factor, the Sharks and the Golden Knights play back-to-back home and home. For 2 games. So they had to suspend Kane for at least 3 because that would be like throwing a match into a bag of gunpowder.
I don't love the Sharks' chances in these games.
Right.
with just the way hockey works, with not just Kane, even if Kane was playing.
You're just going with karma at this point.
Yeah, the revenge thing in hockey is huge, and there's no question that I don't like the Sharks' chances in these games. But we'll get to that too. We're going to talk. We have 4 more teams to cover today.
Yeah,
and we have to talk about the game yesterday. And
the Flyers Lausanne game.
You're right. The Lausanne game, I give Alain Vigneault credit because he said this team, this is their Stanley Cup. Mark Streit was a coach of theirs on the bench.
Yeah,
but this is their Stanley Cup, and Carter Hart gave up 4 quickies. Now I'm going to say 2 to 3 of them were bad. They were bad, and they pulled them. And I want to let people know, just because Carter Hart's the number 1 goalie, Alain Vigneault, if he feels like they're not doing anything in this game and they might not be able to come back, he is going to pull Carter Hart from games. He is not going to be like, well, this is my number 1 goalie, and that's not the way he operates.
For sure. And I totally agree with you. I think that this was it was a trap game for sure. There's no question about it. But at the same time, everybody's always said that. I mean, when the Central Army team came in and lost to the Flyers in 1976, they're like, yeah, this was their championship game. Because the better team always is going to say that, right?
There were 2 things, Zach. I mean, that when goalie goes to the bigger ice, it's always hard with the angles. Now they had 3 days to practice.
Yeah,
it's not game conditions.
Carter Hart has played plenty of games on that.
Not a ton though. The 2 World Juniors were all on NHL ice, so he hasn't.
In his both careers, he's never played in a World Championship.
No, he did. He played in the World Championship last year, so he did play some on it, but he hasn't played like a lot.
Yeah. So, the thing that concerns me the most about this game, it's easy to overreact this game. One is Jake Voracek again, who is just, I don't know what's going on.
I think that's what the post-game message from Vigneault was Jake Voracek, because the troubling part of this game was when they're down like that, they pull the goalie. So Elliott's the guy that they're always used to coming in here. He does great.
Elliott's great off the bench. He always has.
Yeah. They start coming back, and then they make it close and lose. And this group of veterans, that's their story.
That's my other point, Russ. You're exactly right, because this is why these coaches are here.
Right.
Because we talked about this in the offseason. The last year with the Flyers, you could find plenty of games where they did that, where yesterday was just like. How many times were we sitting in the press box and they're down 3-0 and we're like, well, they're going to come back and fall short, or they're going to come back and just get, and many times, mostly they would tend to come back and fall just short, or they would come back and sometimes win it, but not often. Usually, there's no, obviously if you fall down 3-0, so many times you're going to come back and win the game. Yeah. But they always would make a run. They would always make a run. They would always get back into it. They would never get blown out. And the whole thing about getting rid of Hacksaw and bringing in these guys was to get the team to play the first period. To actually get them to come out and play hard and play with desperation right away. Because for whatever reason, and I'm going to put some of this on Giroux as well, because it's like Giroux's got to get this team. Giroux has to set a better.
Adam, he was trying.
He's trying, but he's not from the beginning of the game. Provorov, just straight down the line. Provorov's getting paid a lot of money now. He's not a rookie anymore. These guys have to play the beginning of the game like they're behind, and not go into the beginning of the game just like waiting to see what happens. And
I'll tell you 2 things. I saw Sanheim miss a completely open net chance. That's bad because when they were trying to come back. The other thing is, I think Philip Myers may have lost his chance to start on this team, because Welinski, he's an older guy and he seems to have taken his spot now. And so Carson Twarynski, though, had another great game. I think he's making it. I think Connor Bunneman, who had a really good game, is making it. So I think some of the young guys are making it, but not the young guys everybody thought.
I think Farabee fell off a little bit in this one.
He did. I mean, some people
thought. I think they'll still let him. I think they'll still have those guys on the team to start the year.
They will, but I don't know if he'll last.
Yeah, that's the big question, is how, and I think that, with what's kind of stupid, not stupid, but, I think with Farabee, he's such a smart player and obviously going to be a great NHL player at some point, right? So you sit there and you look at him and you're like, and he reminds me so much of Couturier when Couturier came, and and with Couturier though, they were I think that little extra bit of confidence that they gave Couturier when Couturier came in, they were like, you're here, buddy. You made this team, you're staying, just go out and play. With Farabee, it's been not quite that. And I think that, and that's fair.
For a little bit of the game after that hooking back.
Yeah. I mean, Couturier made mistakes early on too, but you never had a feeling in a second that Couturier was getting sent back, and they didn't. And because he was just so smart on the ice, and Farabee's the same way. But if you're looking for him to score goals right away, I think that's a little bit unfair because the guy right now he's still learning the speed of the game. He's still learning positioning with this kind, with this sort of speed of the game. There's a lot of things that he's got to learn, and he's learning amazingly quickly. But you can't expect that right away.
The one worry is if you're a Flyers fan, they don't have set lines, and Vigneault said so. And that's the part that's worrisome if you're a fan, because he basically said, yeah, I haven't found the right combinations yet. I'm still searching.
Yeah, and there was a moment when they panned to Chris Therien on the bench too, and I went into epileptic shock for a bit. But anyway, that's another story for another day. They have absolutely, it's going to be interesting to see how they come out against Chicago. But this is a team that they have a real tough beginning of the schedule, and they have to play from the beginning of the game, and they kind of let Carter Hart down in some ways too. I mean, they honestly did.
It was a combo. They let him down, and then he wasn't playing his best either. Yeah,
he wasn't playing his best. He definitely on the third goal.
Oh yeah,
terrible play by Provorov too on that goal, because you can see when I saw the highlight at first I'm like, oh, that's a terrible goal, and then I kept watching it and kept watching different angles, and then you see that Provorov almost fakes blocking the shot, and it definitely threw him. Like, it definitely threw hard. He was.
But on the fourth one, the guy basically telegraphed his shot, and it still went in.
Yeah.
Can I just say that we're talking about them losing to a team in the Swiss League?
But this happened last year.
This happens all the time, Mike. That's the problem.
Well, last year somebody went over there and lost to one of those teams too. I forget who it was. The Flyers, and like Bill Meltzer wrote, in 2008 lost to the Phantoms on the last game of the Spectrum, right? Things like this.
Terry talked about that on local TV, and I get it. I remember that game. I think I was at that game, because I want to say that game was at the Spectrum.
It was the last game at the Spectrum.
Right. So I was at that game. I remember it. But Mike, you know what the issue is?
I was too.
When you get a whole new coaching staff, when you get some new players, but the result is the same, that's why it hit a chord.
The chord came out slow, yeah.
That's so similar to what's happening in Buffalo.
Yeah.
You have Ralph Kruger coming in, and basically the same roster, although there's been a couple changes, a couple additions like VC and Johansson.
Right.
But essentially they're bringing back almost the same lineup, same goaltenders, some injuries. The question is, whether that team is going to have any kind of different result with the same core group. And I think that's definitely a big question. And we have to mention this just because it's a little bit scary. It came out this morning that Don Granato, the Sabres assistant coach, is taking a leave of absence. Apparently, Tony Granato is I guess, leaving wherever he was to pay attention to what's going on with his brother. He's got a severe case of pneumonia. He's in a local Buffalo hospital, and it's a scary situation. It doesn't sound like it's something that's under control right now. And I think we should keep a good thought for Don Granato, because it's.
Yeah, I mean, Don Granato is one of the nicest people out there. One of the nicest guys. I spent an entire plane trip next to him during the Boston Bruins Stanley Cup final, flying across the country.
That poor guy.
I know. I sat right next to him, and he couldn't have been nicer to me. And he was like, and he also was just talking hockey with him. I've talked to a lot of people, about hockey in my life, and a lot of different coaches and different things like that. And I've had long discussions with a lot of people. I was ultimately so impressed with his hockey knowledge, like his vision and the way he sees things and the way he sees the whole. I don't know. I definitely am thinking about him today, because he's just one of those really good people.
Well, I mean,
the show. I know you watches HockeyBuzzcast too. I know he's part of this, so it's just hopefully he's okay out there too. So that's
just in league news, other than the Kane thing, just the waiver situation. I mean, Russ was mostly right, but there were two claims, so it wasn't the old boys network making sure that everybody went through. But Eric Comrie did get claimed by Arizona. Now, remember, Ronta's been hurt. Kepler was, I guess, day-to-day with something. So this might not be something that lasts very long. If Ronta comes back and then they have the two goalies, you could see Comrie be put back on waivers again, and then Winnipeg could reclaim him, and he could go directly to the AHL. So that it might be a temporary thing there, but it's a temporary need for the Coyotes. The other one is Carl Dahlstrom. defenseman with Chicago, big 6'4" Swede. Played some last year, about half a season.
He's one of your average to below average puck moving defensemen.
Yeah, he got claimed by Winnipeg, so it sounds to me like they're unsure about what's going on with Buffalo, and Dahlstrom is an $850,000 defenseman rather than them claiming Hickey at $2.5 million. So yeah. I think they took the inexpensive way out because maybe they don't know what's happening with Buffalo.
That's definitely the case. It's I was surprised. I was really surprised. I was very, very, very surprised that Ho-Sang wasn't picked up. I know you guys didn't think
I wasn't. Lou came out with a quote. I posted it in our group chat that he plans on signing all 3 players if they make it through. And they should have just showing them with fingers crossed, because I would have laughed. Because nobody was claiming Lou's guys. Nobody of consequence got claimed yesterday.
Maybe you think this is Lou and the Mafia a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah, and after 2 years of keeping Nick Batan on the Jets roster, they trade him to Toronto because he's not waiver exempt, and he gets put on waivers by the Leafs and he clears. So
yeah,
I have to admit, I mean, think about it. With all the teams out there, with all the needs out there, all of the better guys, none of them got claimed.
Yeah, no, that's really true. It's.
And it might simply be that these teams don't want to take on pro contracts.
Possible, you could say.
Well, I think that's a big part of it right now. And the salary cap situation is horrible all over the place.
But look, like a team like Edmonton, they could have taken a player. Why not?
Yeah, I don't know why Edmonton wouldn't have taken a shot at Ho-Sang if they could have. I mean, I just think, and Holland definitely is not going to be intimidated by.
It's not that he's intimidated. It's just again, right.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that.
It totally exists.
No, I don't think it does. I think it does.
Okay.
If it does. No, I'm just.
I know it's your opinion. It's fine.
I understand that. I mean, I've had this discussion with Brian Burke at length a couple times, and then even recently about this whole thing, respect thing. We're not going to do something because he's like, yeah, that matters if you're on the border of doing something, or if you're like, but he said, and you can always say that at the end of the day, yeah, we did it because out of respect, but these are all business decisions. I can't think that. I think this, you would say that you didn't want to disrespect him, but you could say, hey, Lou, I didn't take this guy. But if you needed him, you would take him. It's just the way, that's what Burke says to me. I kind of agree with that. I think it's the case. I don't know. The Oiler fans, they're saying, and Mark Peterson's in our chat, they're saying that, and the Oilers fans are really pissed off about those. I think they should be. Honestly, they really should be, because that's a skilled player, I don't know. It's one of those things. Let's get into our. I want to talk about Ryan Poehling real quick too, because he actually Ryan Poehling got sent down to Laval.
Because of the concussion. Like now, I think that's the right move.
And I think Wesley, you kind of nailed this one, and so I was going to give you credit for it, because I think that this is not a case of that he's going to be there the whole year. This is the case that you're going to bring him back and let him play some games after the concussion that aren't at the NHL level.
Right.
Which is the smartest thing to do. I still think Ryan's going to be a big factor this year on the Montreal.
I think so too.
And I think it was a real smart move, and people were freaking out about it. But
you can't freak out about that.
No, so let's get to our predictions, because we have to leave we have a half hour to do 4 teams, guys. That is 7.5 minutes per team. But let's figure out what we can do. All right, so we're going to start with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who we never talk about on the show. So we're going to get into this.
Yeah, nobody pays attention to them.
We never pay any attention, then we don't know what happened. What happened? Okay, so in the offseason, they signed a guy named Marner. They brought in. Anyway,
they re-signed Kapanen and Janssen. They traded
Kapanen and Janssen, which were really good moves early in the offseason. I wrote today I did my predictions already today, so I can talk a little bit more freely about my thoughts on this, because I did my predictions for the Atlantic Division this morning. I picked the Maple Leafs to win this division, and the reason I did that was, that they're, and I'm going to basically read off my blog, but this is what I feel, that they're set up, for one season to have everything work. Like they're absolutely set. This is the best defense they've put together in a long time. Granted, it's a lot of guys on their final year of their contract. They have great experience in guys, in certain experience that they need in right places. Mm-hmm. They've got great young players, and having guys, and I'm going to do a blog about this later in the week, that if you go back in time and you want to see what teams do well, you count the teams that have players who are playing for their contracts, and that will help you in your guidance.
Maybe, but see, this is the thing that's ironic.
Yeah,
you have a team that had reached the playoffs for the 3rd straight year, that earned 100 points for the 2nd straight year, and if you take the lineup that they opened the season with last year, against, I believe, Montreal.
Yep.
And the opening lineup that is going to play tomorrow against Ottawa, there are 12 different players. There are 12 new.
That's an amazing amount of change for a team that was so good.
Yeah, and that I think is one of the reasons why I think they'll finish in the top 3 in the Atlantic, but won't win the division, because I expect them to struggle early on, because you've got so many new bodies playing for a new coach, and a coach that is an experienced coach in Babcock, but a new coach for them. And I think there's going to be a little bit of growing pains early on. Now I think they have a great goaltender in Frederik Andersen. But I think the key for them this year is to not play Frederik Andersen too much.
Which means it's up to Hutchinson. That's what it means. And
well, it's up to Hutchinson and it's up to Babcock, because Babcock basically has said the same boilerplate answer that he said the last 2 years.
Hutchinson can change that if he has a really good run this year.
Right.
But I don't know if he's guaranteed to do that. So I think that's a little bit of a question mark.
Right.
I think they have too many guys for the power play, right? How are they going to divvy them all up between the 2 power plays? Because they have too many now, especially adding Barry.
Well, I mean, right now, as the season starts, their number 1 power play is the power play they used in the playoffs after Kadri got suspended, which is Tavares, Marner, Matthews on the forwards, Andreas Janssen playing the side of the net, and Morgan Riley playing the point. Their second power play is Tyson Barrie, Kapanen, Nylander, and Spezza. And it's undetermined who the other player would be, because it was a couple guys who got sent to the minors on that second power play. But it's 2 good units. So, and I actually think Barrie is a more effective power play point guy than Riley, because Riley has a better.
I was just going to get to that. Wouldn't you rather put Riley on the second power play so he could play more of those other things?
Yes.
That would strengthen your defense more, because you have Barry who could certainly cover it.
I don't think he's anywhere near as good as. I don't think Barry's as good as Riley on the power play.
I think
on the power play, I think he is.
He's got a better shot. Riley's maybe a better passer.
Definitely better.
But Paul McFarland, who is the former assistant coach in Florida, who's now the head coach, now the assistant coach in Toronto, who runs the power play, has switched things around. He's got Marner and Matthews flipped on the different wings, so they're set up for one-timers and shots with the stick toward the middle of the ice when they were on the other sides. On the power play last year, there's a lot more flow and movement to their power play. So I think that's gonna, if their power play is effective, it's gonna be because of that. Now I look at the team. I think the defense is much better. The bottom pairing is a concern until Travis Dermott comes back.
Yeah.
They have 3 good offensive lines. I like Alex Kerfoot as the number 2 center. The question mark, even though he's played well in the preseason, is Ilya Mikheyev, the Russian they brought over from the KHL. He's played well. He's got some good speed. He's got some size. I don't know how effective he's going to be in the NHL, but I think he will be pretty decent. Their fourth line, and when your biggest concerns are fourth line and bottom pairing,
you're doing okay.
You're doing okay, but right now the fourth line is with Frederic Gauthier, who's an offensive zero, playing out of position on the wing, with Jason Spezza, who doesn't appear to be a favorite of Babcock. There could be a lot of changeover on that fourth line, and with everybody clearing waivers, these guys can come up and down from the Marlies, and I think that's going to be one of the things that you look at the roster that they set up, the 23 men. They've got at least 2 guys who are probably going to be sent down to the minors in the next couple days, because they had to overinflate their cap number to get the maximum amount of LTIR, and they're going to place Horton, Clarkson, Hyman, and Dermott on LTIR, I believe, tomorrow when everything is set. And then they're like $10,000 under the cap, according to Cap Friendly. And then they'll send a couple guys down, and that'll create, probably about $1 million in cap space. But they're going to manage that going back and forth. There's going to be a lot of
they're so lucky that they have the Marlies like right there, and that they can actually send guys, because the Flyers used to win. I remember my favorite moments was and I think you were there for this, rest in the Flyers skate zone, where the Phantoms were practicing on one surface and the Flyers are practicing on the other surface. So they practice in the same building. And if you sit up in the press area, you can like literally look out that window and see the Flyers, that window and see the Phantoms. And the Flyers, they would basically, some of the players were being just told when they got there, go to the Phantoms side for a practice, just for a practice to save like $500 on the cap or whatever.
Right.
By sending them over, and you can do that when you're in this situation.
The last thing I'll say about the Leafs, and this is where I think Babcock could blow it, but he shouldn't. Leave Spezza alone because, you have injuries in that lineup. Spezza can fill a lot of different spots for you in that lineup. Don't mess with him because he could be your MVP of like that, of the lower tier players.
To what you said, Eck, I would not be surprised when they're playing at home and the Marlies are home that the Leafs are carrying 20 players because they're not going to need those extra guys because they're not playing. So
guys, of course, will hate him for it. That's a big deal because if you
they won't. Most of these players won't. It won't matter to them because they're all on one-way contracts.
They won't have any scratches in the press box.
But if they're on one-way contracts, it doesn't benefit the Leafs then either.
Yes, it does because you can bury a little over $1 million in the NHL. You're opening up cap space for everyone.
There just won't be any scratches in the press box. That's all.
Right. And they'll carry extra guys on the road. They're a top 3 team in the Atlantic.
Yep.
And I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't tell whether, where they're going to go in the playoffs. If they come up against,
we know the parade route, Mike. We know it. It's been
the Raptors used it. Yeah.
They will do everything they can to finish in first because they will want to. They want to avoid Boston. Even though I think they're better suited to beat Boston than they've ever been. But they're going and I think Tampa on the other hand this is why I picked them 1 versus 2, just so Tampa. I think Tampa at number 2 because I think Tampa's regular season they're going to approach it a little differently from what I've heard.
I think so. I think that's fair.
So because last year they're gonna definitely Vasilevsky will get a lot less starts in different situations. They're gonna not worry so much about where they finish because they're not worried about Boston at all.
Just remember, Toronto, the Raptors are Toronto's team.
Yep, true north. All right. Okay, so the Capitals. That's where we wanted the Washington Capitals.
Okay, we got Washington, Vancouver, and Vegas.
We got Washington, Vancouver, and Vegas. I'm going a little bit out of order. Sorry. I'm going to go to the Caps first, I think.
Okay.
Because I have my notes up for that. So that's good. All right. So the interesting thing the other day, Raz has been talking a lot about this. He thinks that Ovechkin's going to go back to Russia eventually.
I do.
In the next couple of years. I don't know if you heard this whole thing, but Backstrom's playing for a contract this year. Backstrom is a UFA coming up, and that's a really interesting thing.
That is an interesting thing.
And so Ovechkin said during a practice when the reporters were there, he said to him, you sign a 5-year deal, you sign a 6-year deal, and I'll sign a 5-year deal next year or whatever. It was interesting because Ovechkin said that out loud in front of all the reporters. I don't know if that was just to quell some things. It can be like,
it could be.
I wouldn't put it past Ovechkin at all if that was his quell.
No, but I mean, he may know that Backstrom won't do that. Like he may already know that.
Right. So, the interesting players this year to watch really are Backstrom and Holtby because Holtby is also on his contract year.
And that's the sticky point here because it's very possible that Holtby's gone. And then if that happens because of costs, then Backstrom may sign a short-term deal with him or may just decide to leave.
I wonder. You also have Samsonov, right? Who's coming.
Right. Samsonov could be the goalie, but still, at some point, because Backstrom's won a cup, he may just want to get out of there.
Yeah, I would be shocked, but it's possible. It's possible. I think he's really happy there.
But he hasn't made top dollar there.
No, so they're going. The issue is going to be like, they have to get him signed before free agency. They have to figure that out. They have to get him signed.
A lot is going to depend on Samsonov and how he plays in Hershey because if he plays great and he proves that he's ready for the NHL, then they can reasonably say, okay, we'd love to sign you, Holtby, but we can't afford the $6 million and we need the money to sign Backstrom. So, it could be a choice of one or the other. And the other UFA is Gudis, and I don't know if that's a big factor.
Gudis won't matter, but Backstrom's on a $6.7 million deal, right? Yeah. He's going to be looking for like 11.5.
No, he's not going to get 11.5.
Like, if you look at his numbers,
I agree.
He's the best assist guy in the NHL. He is.
Yeah. The reason they make the Gudis trade is to give them money for Backstrom and that was really that's what I was told. Gudis contract ends, and of course,
and Niskanen had an extra year.
Yeah, an extra year, so that was going to kill them. But Gudis to Niskanen, that's a definite drop off. Okay, there's no two ways about it. Niskanen.
I don't think it's massive. There's a little bit.
As far as yeah, I mean, I guess they have enough puck moving defensemen that it's okay, but. And Gudas will help. He's obviously going to be Gudas, right? I'm a huge Gudas fan. Like I thought he was really important to the Flyers last year. I didn't want them to move him at the deadline. I thought he was important to them, and I still think he's important. I understand why they did it, but I still think that that's just. But if Gudas, this is a team that is definitely going to be considered one of the dirtier teams in hockey because I mean you've got Wilson and Gudas, and that's all you need to say. I mean, those two are going to, you've got.
Gudas had 20 points. Niskanen had 25. Niskanen had 4 more goals. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, no, I know that's true. That's true, it's going to be an interesting thing how that plays out, but and how Gudas fits in because Gudas is a great locker room guy and he'll help.
Well, let's just say this: the defense that won the cup a couple years ago and the defense now, you've lost Orpik to retirement. You've lost Niskanen in a trade, and now guys who are bottom pairing like Kempny is now a number 4, and Nick Jensen, who they got from Detroit, is arguably their 3 or 4. Gudas probably on the bottom pairing with a guy like Christian Juice. I mean, their defense is not as good as it was now. No. Holtby is a good goaltender who I don't think had an inconsistent year. The year they won the cup, he was okay last year. They're going to have to score a ton of goals, and I really think that the incident during the preseason with Tom Wilson has not learned his lesson.
No, he believes. I mean, I think Tom Wilson just is about getting away with as much as he can get away with.
He's still a loose friggin' cannon, and that's bad. And that's bad news for Washington because he will get himself in trouble again, and he'll get suspended for 20 games, and that will mean something to that team.
I don't think it's going to matter. I still think they win the Metro. I still think I won't go further than that, but if people heard me, they might know. But I think they're winning the Metro easy.
I think they're top 3. I don't know if they're guaranteed to win the division.
Guaranteed.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Well, when we get into predictions. But yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, there's no question.
Yeah,
obviously they're. And I think they're going to still be a fun team. What team do you guys want to go to next?
Vancouver.
All right, Vancouver. You can start, Mike.
Well, I mean, Vancouver made a lot of changes during the season. Jim Benning was busy. He signed Tyler Myers to a 5-year deal, $6 million per. Re-signed Alex Edler on defense, and then adding Quinn Hughes, who is extremely talented, but he's a rookie, so it's maybe a few growing pains there. They get Besser re-signed. They trade for JT Miller. They signed Furlan. So there's a lot of change over there, But the key there is the guy who's making almost the least amount on the team at forward, and that's Elias Pettersson. Who's making his base salary, but is probably their, if he stays healthy, and that'll be a concern, is probably their MVP and could be in contention for the Hart if he plays like he did last year. He's extremely talented. I think they have to protect him because if he takes hits.
Timo Meyer's on the list of top 50, by the way. He's not as good as Timo Meyer's, just so you know.
But I like what Benning did. I like some of the additions. It's a big year for Travis Green if this team doesn't show.
It's a bigger year for Benning, I think.
Yeah, but he signed an extension, Russ.
Doesn't matter.
I know sometimes that doesn't. If
brothers don't really care about money.
Yeah, if they take a big step back, then he might be in trouble, and then it's a general house cleaning. But if they do okay, but don't make the playoffs, then Travis Green might be in trouble.
I don't think Green's in trouble. I really think it's a Benning year. I look at Besser just got out of concussion protocol. That's huge for them.
Yeah.
They'll have one of the best power plays in the West. I really think Quinn Hughes will get 55 to 60 points. I don't think there'll be any issue there with him.
Yeah.
But
he could be rookie of the year, no question.
He'll be in the running.
With his brother, probably.
Myers is great. Their defense is okay. Their offense is good. Jake Virtanen needs to come back as good as he was last year, at least. But there's been issues where he was overweight in camp, and now there's a lot of spotlight on Jake Virtanen, similar to what happened with Kevin Hayes a few years ago with the Rangers. That same kind of spotlight where he didn't have a great year. So all that said, they're a bubble team, and I don't think they make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Jordy Ben was another guy that they added as a depth defense.
A backup goalie is good.
I think for them to make the playoffs, I think they need to get like Tanner Pearson back to where he was when he was with LA. They need to get now. Roussel is on the injured list, so I don't know what he's gonna provide. They sent Barchi down to the minors. Jay Beagle is aging. I think they're gonna need guys like Josh Levo and Virtanen, as you mentioned, to step up, and Brandon Sutter to stay healthy. If some of those things happen, I think they stay in the race, because remember, this division is the worst in hockey.
Right.
So if they're going to feast on some of LA and Anaheim, because those teams aren't going to be good. And if they can do that, and if they can stay at the level, stay within shouting distance of San Jose and Calgary and Vegas, then they could get in on the wild card spot or slip into third. And
Markstrom's a decent NHL goalie. He is.
Who is?
Markstrom.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he is better than people. People really rip on him a lot, and it's not really fair. I think that whether or not they're a playoff team or not, it's possible. I mean, they're in there. They're in the anywhere from 5th to 3rd spot in that division. They could finish in 3rd. They could finish in 5th.
Antoine Roussel, not Dominic Roussel. I don't think I said Dominic, did I?
I like Dominic Roussel, but he's pretty old.
No, but somebody. I think somebody said I said Dominic Roussel. I thought I said Antoine Roussel, but anyway, last name, whatever.
All right, so this is I think the interesting thing here with this team to me is the fact that you have to watch them every friggin' night because of Elias Pettersson. Like, he is absolutely as good a player that's coming to the NHL as anybody in the last 20 years. And he's right there with McDavid. He's right there with Matt.
He's out there with McDavid. Yeah.
No, in terms of in my as far as watchability goes.
Watching. Okay.
Sure. Like, I'm not saying he's gonna score the same kind of points as the guys, but he is. He as far as making players around him better, he might be better than McDavid.
And that may be true, actually.
And I think the motivation, and remember, we're not in the 80s where you put Semenko on Gretzky's line and nobody's going to touch Gretzky because of that. But you do have guys like Furland who are physical, aggressive guys.
Yeah.
Tannen is like that as well. That if you have that sort of element on your team, then it does provide a little bit of deterrent to teams maybe taking runs or trying to be overly physical with Pettersson. Now, Pettersson supposedly has put on some weights and put on some muscle. That's all fine and good, but he was a very slight player last year and got hurt 2 or 3 times.
Well, he was targeted. He really was.
Yeah.
And
teams knew.
Go ahead.
No, teams knew that they could take advantage of him physically, and they did. But when he was healthy, I mean, he only played 66 games. Imagine if he had played a full season.
Right. Yeah, it's just that. And people are talking about someone John in the chat room brings up JT Miller, who I think is another really, really subtle pick that they got that's going to help.
Declining player, though.
Yeah, I know he's declining, but he gives them some grit. Like he gives them. He has that thing that he'll bring in. I mean, Demko will be fun to watch too, even though Markstrom's a guy. There's no question about it.
It sounds like they're going to put Miller on the wing because obviously Pettersson is the center on the number 1 line and Horvat on the second line. So I would assume that they're not going to be putting a guy making the money that Miller's making, and he's a physical player too. As a third line center, it would make more sense to put him on a second line as a winger. So, and
Quinn Hughes is small. They bring that up in the chat room. It's true.
That doesn't matter. Come
on,
it
doesn't matter because you got to hit him because he's so.
Look at what he did last year.
He's a water bug. He avoids it.
He's ridiculously elusive.
Yeah, he's used to being small.
Yeah,
he'll be fine.
Look, at the end of the day, he's a 47-point player, so he is like Milan Lucic when the numbers started to go down. That's what he is.
Yeah. So my projection is that Vancouver is a bubble team.
Bubble team, they don't make the playoffs from it.
Yeah, probably about that. Yep, I think that's probably about right. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. Let's go finally to the
Golden Knights.
Golden Knights in our last 10 minutes here. We're ripping these through these pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. My computer screen is frozen, so you can start.
Okay. I mean, Vegas made their big acquisition at the deadline last year, getting Mark Stone. And that's a very impactful addition. But this is a year last year where they added Stone via trade. They added Pacioretty via trade. They signed Stastny. And they went from a team that had boatloads of cap space to a team that has, that had to trade David Clarkson and give up a draft pick to Toronto to open up enough cap space just to get under the cap. So they've spent very very extravagantly in the last 12 to 18 months. I think they're a really good team. I think they're definitely going to be in contention for top spot in the Pacific. They need guys like Alex Tuck to produce. They signed him to a long-term deal. They need him to stay healthy and to play up to his capabilities. They need, I think, a little bit of a bounce back from Carlson. I don't know if the last year's William Carlson is the real William Carlson.
I like what he is. I do.
Right. I mean, I think he's better than what he was last year, but not as good as he was the year before.
No, I think he's the guy that he was last year, honestly. But two big things. So Nick Hague and Cody Glass went to the big player room this morning, the big locker room. Apparently, the guys who they weren't sure of were going to the UNLV locker room. So reporters noticed that right away. Cody Glass was on a line with Stone and Pacioretty, and that's a massive and a very fast, gifted, skilled line.
Right.
So Cody Glass making the team is a big deal. Nick Hague making the team is a big deal because that's a guy with a big shot, but more so a big body defensively who now skates really well and can be physical. And so that's another reason why they were eager or able to let go of Miller, right? Because they knew that they saw what Hague did last year and they knew he was going to be close.
Well, they were anxious to give up on Miller because Miller and Gallant did not get along.
That's fair too.
Yeah, because Gallant wanted Colin Miller to be something Colin Miller is not, which is a two-way defenseman.
Right.
Colin Miller.
Yeah. So now you've got these youngsters mixed in. Fleury is the key because, again, I don't love their backup goaltending. So I do think that Marc-Andre Fleury is the key. But, again, he seems to be able to handle this. He's got a lot of mileage.
Well, I think they made the right decision in terms of the backup goaltender because Garrett Sparks is a sieve, and it was a sieve in Toronto, and I knew that Subban, who has played good at times over the last 2 years as the backup.
Okay at times, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. They need more I mean, ideally, like most of the goaltenders out there and most of the teams out there, they want their backup to probably play closer to 25 to 30 games. And with Fleury getting older, I mean, what is he, 35, 36?
Yeah, right in that range.
Yeah, I mean, they need to lighten his workload. I mean, he'll be the go-to guy when it gets to the playoffs, but they need to, take the foot off the pedal a little bit. And, then that, like, just like Toronto with Anderson and just like with other teams like maybe Holtby in Washington, I think they need to lessen the workload of these goaltenders. Otherwise, they're gonna rue the day.
Especially Subban started 20 games, and he only won 8. And
right.
You could say whatever you want that wins is not a goalie stat, but sometimes when a goalie is in there and the team doesn't fully believe in them or they're a little worried that they have to play a certain way, you don't get the results you hoped. He's got to win 13 or 14 of those 20 games to take the pressure off of Fleury, I feel.
Yeah, Fleury turns 35 in November, according to Mark in the chat. So, he's not ancient, but it is starting to be the time where, especially with his injury history.
I mean, I'd kill to be 35, but anyhow.
Is he a Hall of Famer?
Make Marc-Andre Fleury's money.
Is Marc-Andre Fleury a Hall of Famer to you guys?
Yes.
I think so, too.
I don't even think there's a question.
2 Stanley Cups?
Yeah, I know.
Actually 3.
Yeah, no, I think so. You're right. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, and also what he did there in Vegas is just remarkable. I mean, he's like, he's like George Washington to that team. He's that important. It's like when he steps down, it's having just watched Hamilton history and all that stuff. I just think that is really fascinating because he is that important to that team.
Yeah, no question. I think when you think about him, it's going to take like the Raiders a long time to have someone of prominence probably be more popular than Fleury is in that city as an athlete. And that's a pretty big deal.
That's a huge deal. I agree with you completely. And that is how, now this team is one of the more interesting teams to me because I don't know about them. There's so many people who are just accepting the fact that they are either going to win that division or that they are the best team, or they're going to the Stanley Cup Finals or whatever. I see this just constantly, right?
They're a playoff team. There's no question in my mind. But as Mike said, right now Tuck and Cody Aiken are battling injuries, and those guys have had a little bit of injury bug, more Aiken than Tuck, but they both need to play a fair amount of games. They do.
Yeah, but I mean, I mean, it is not impossible that they could step back a little bit here. Like
I got breaking news. So Krispy Kreme is now promising free donuts if the Golden Knights beat the Sharks. This is the kind of thing that you are worried about.
Why was I worried about? Yeah, no, I'm not worried about it. I think this
players will cash in on this.
You mean the spread of diabetes and heart disease in Vegas?
Krispy Kremes are pretty friggin' good. Like
they're great.
They just came to our area recently. I mean, they're not in the last 10 years.
So you're saying you sampled them?
I've had a few Krispy Kreme donuts in my time.
Krispy Kreme came to Western New York it was easily over a decade ago, and there were lines streets long to get drive-through, and then eventually it calmed down.
I mean, I'm still a Dunkin' Donuts person at the end of the day. Like, I think that they're better. But
Tim Hortons.
Yeah, they're different.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Tim Hortons is pretty good.
But in Vegas, Krispy Kremes are huge, and I love that. I think
this is good. This is good for the sport now because you have a rivalry, and now you've got a company now that's saying, "Hey, we're getting involved in this. This is good." I like.
The really funny thing about this is like everybody didn't expect this to be the rivalry for that team. Like the Kings were the team. The Kings were the rivalry. That was so set up to be the thing. Like because the Kings it's drivable, very easily drivable from LA to Vegas. It's like 3 hours, I think.
Yeah, something.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that was totally set up, and yet of course now that this has happened with San Jose, they've got this incredible rivalry with the Sharks, and that's going to be. I think they're going to be giving out a lot of donuts this week.
We got a couple minutes.
But before I finish, so let me finish my thought with these guys real quick.
Sure.
Because I was out there for a little bit. This team depends a ton on the continuing development of Nate Schmidt and Shea Theodore.
True.
That is happening, and that they I think they overachieved a couple years ago. They were better than they maybe should have been. Last year they came back a little bit to normal, I thought. But we need to see them continue to be proved that they're like a number 1 and number 2 D man, and I'm not convinced they are long term. And because defense is such a difficult thing. So if I'm going to say there's any problems with Vegas, I think it's on their defense. And I know they have a lot of good young defenders as well, for sure. But I think that and I was really impressed with some of their young defensemen when I watched them in preseason this year. They really have a solid.
White Cloud is one guy that they might be on the come in terms of being on that team sometime this year. There was just one question that I was.
Go ahead. I have one thing I'm going to bring back. I'm trying to remember.
Go ahead, because
do the question first because I'm trying to remember this guy's name. I was really impressed with. 1 second.
Okay. I'm trying to find it here. Sorry. Okay. Mark was asking, when do teams have to get cap compliant? It's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. Yeah.
Tomorrow. So right now, for example, I mentioned this in my piece yesterday. The Leafs are like 13.6 million over the cap.
Right.
So when LTIR kicks in, they have about 13.6 something in cap relief. They'll be $10,000 under the cap. And that's the reason why they had 23 players on their roster, because they needed to get as close to what they were going to have in LTIR relief to get the full effect. Now, after they kick that into gear, then they can send players down, and that's why they'll probably send Timothy Liljegren and guys like Nick Shore down to the Marlies, and that'll clear 2 salaries at about probably $1 million, $1.5 million, and then they'll have some operating room, and they'll play with that in terms of bringing players back up and down. I mean, they're going to be doing that all year. Brandon Pridham, who's their assistant GM, was a cap guy in the NHL, so he knows every in and out in terms of the cap.
Right. That's true. All right. So the guy I was really looking at that I really liked is Dylan. Dylan Coughlin.
Okay.
I watched him play the defenseman.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I did not see who made this team yet, so I don't know if he made it or not.
I don't think so. I think right now, in terms of their defense, it's. I mean, Russ said Haig. So it's Haig, Schmidt, Theodore, Braden McNabb, probably Derek England, Nick Holden. They depends on how many defensemen they carry. They're probably 6 or 7 at least, obviously. So, but
I watched 3 preseason games with the Knights, and this kid, I was just super impressed. Like, I think he's got huge star potential. It's early, obviously still, but he's not. I mean, he's not young. He's 21. So, and I mean, he's one of the big pieces, and was a huge piece last year for the Chicago Wolves. But he, so if he's back there, he'll be fine. He'll be up eventually. But I was really impressed with just his ability to move the puck, his ability to shoot. He's got a nasty streak to him. He like becomes a part of the game by getting under people's skin. It's just really just overall, like, this was like a real old school defenseman to me that I was just, where a lot of that, they have so many good defensemen on that Chicago Wolves team. But a lot of them are straight up, puck moving guys. He's that too, but he also has this other level to him. So to me, that was super impressive to watch. And if he's not up right away, he will be. I think he will be up here soon. So we did it. We did all 31 teams.
So tomorrow we'll be doing some predictions. I don't know if we can do divisions or we can do just the 8 playoff teams. Probably the 8 playoff teams would make sense.
I don't know. I like when we do divisions. I think that I'm trying to think. Are there any divisions that don't play tomorrow?
Well, there's only a few games tomorrow.
Right. So I think that we could take the teams that are playing tomorrow. We should probably get those divisions in, and then we could do the next ones on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm looking at the schedule right now to see what the games are tomorrow. We've got Senators, Leafs, Capitals, Blues, Canucks, Oilers, Sharks, Golden Knights. So we could do.
Central Division's not playing tomorrow, then, right? Am I right about that?
What's that?
Is the Central Division playing?
The Blues are. The Blues are. But
everybody's playing at some point. But
the Atlantic and the Pacific are playing mostly, so we can do those 2, and then
let's do those 2. We'll start there, do the Atlantic and the Pacific, and then we'll go to because that's actually what I'm about to write about today is this Pacific Division. So that works out perfectly. Then tomorrow I'm going to be covering the Central, and and
we will do over unders maybe on Friday. We'll get the line on points, and we'll pick 5 over unders, and I'll keep track of them throughout the year, and then we'll go back and see how great or how bad we were.
Yeah, we can, and I also have some wacky predictions. If you check my blog now, I did some fun wacky predictions for each team. I usually do it as a single blog, but this year I decided to include my wacky predictions in with my team previews for each team. And one of the things I try to do too, because there's so many predictions out there, and it just gets boring because everybody's saying the same thing. You had this player, you had that player. I decided to have for each one of my teams. I mean, I pick where I think they're going to finish, and I give you the basic reason why I think that. But I also have what players that they could be looking to trade for and what players they could be trading away as this year. So that's something I added. So I think that's a little bit different. So if you want a kind of a different spin on predictions, let me know what you think. Read it through and tell me what you think. Do we know? Oh, so Vunky calls it in and says, we know Eck will have Carolina missing the playoffs. Do we know that for sure?
Eck, no. Me, yes.
Yeah, you should never say you know anything with me because that's a challenge, Funky. No, but I don't think I actually have already made my pick for that. So that's possible that I don't have Carolina making the playoffs, but I know I'm going to have some teams making the playoffs that Russ and Mike won't have making the playoffs. That I can guarantee you. Because I'm already along those lines now.
The team in Alberta.
Yes. I already have Montreal. I've already come out today and said Montreal's going to be a playoff team. So there you go. All right, we'll talk again tomorrow. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Talk to you soon.